up, Titans up. On the right time to sing the freshest team that's scrimmage, so I'm busting y'all. Welcome to Nashville. We got this here. Don't lie back. We got this here. It's the city, so out your life. Don't worry about it. See, we got this here. It's a brand new dance and it's about to go live. Tighten up, Nashville, rep the 615. First you tighten 2 steps, step to the right. Then you tighten 2 step to the left. Blue jerseys everywhere. Game pace, yeah, we got it all. Sticking out our chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. It's about to get rough. Here come the train, y'all. Tennessee, tighten up. Let's get tightened up. Tighten up. Let's get tightened up. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Tighten 2 steps, step to the right. Then you tighten 2 steps, step to the left. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong. Sticking out my chest, beating on it like it's King Kong.
Good evening, Titan Nation. Everybody on this. Welcome to Titans and Truth. I'm your man, Chris, aka Blue Enforcer, and I hope everybody had an amazing, happy Father's Day to all the fathers that were out there. I hope everybody had a very good day on Sunday, and we're going to definitely get into this very special episode. We got a new series that we're going to be debuting, and we're going to be talking a whole lot. We got some little news topics to talk about, and then, of course, we got some pick my brain questions that we're going to go into, and then we're going to go into a new series I like to call the High Low. Who had the high boom draft picks and who had the low bust pick as far as the Titans are concerned in the last 20 years. We're going to go each round. So this show, we're going to start with the first round of draft picks that we've had since 2000. So I want everybody to make sure you get thoughts on that. And if you don't know already, make sure you go follow on Facebook at TNT Blue Enforcers, also on Instagram at Titans_N_Truth, and also on Twitter at TNT Blue Enforcer. So make sure y'all do follow on that. And of course, without any further ado, we're going to bring in a very, very special guest onto the show. You know him, you love him. If you don't know him, get to know him because he is one amazing individual. He is from WKRN News Channel 2 in Nashville, my old hometown, the one and only, the man, Mr. Cory Curtis. Welcome to the show, Mr. Cory. Thank you for joining me today.
Chris, over-promising once again. I don't know what you know about me that I don't, but I appreciate the kind words.
You are quite welcome. I am glad to have you on the show. If some of you do not know, Cory has been a guest on this show before. He is returning on to provide some good knowledge, and definitely is somebody that has meant a lot to me. Has helped me with throughout my podcasting career, so to speak. And so I definitely thank him for coming on. With that, I hope you had a very happy Father's Day with your family, Cory.
Oh, fantastic Father's Day. I actually got breakfast in bed, which was nice. And then we went out for a nice family bike. Well, my daughter rode her bike while my wife and I ran. So it was just nice to be out there, the three of us together, getting it done. And, my daughter's 7. I think, oh, yeah, I brought it with me. When you get presents from your 7, you get them like this. It's a dinosaur.
Oh,
so
that is some definite artwork. That is some pristine. That is some good artwork right there. Future artist right there. Yes, and that's always the most important thing, is that there's some effort to it. And I think a lot of people probably say Father's Day gets undercited from Mother's Day, but Father's Day is very important. So
you got to do Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Like when you're the dad, you take whatever you can get. Like I there was a 50-50 shot. We were celebrating Father's Day today. I had no idea. And then I found out we were, so it was good.
Hey, it worked out. It worked out perfectly for you. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that you had a great Father's Day indeed. But there's a little bit of news going on in the Titan world, so I think we should go ahead and let's talk about that for a little bit. There's some interesting rumors that are out right now, and the first thing is going on is about the coronavirus. And as much as I'm just tired of the coronavirus as it is, I mean, it's a whole lot going on where it comes to that the NFLPA has come out and has basically said we need to stop private workouts, that teams don't need to work out together. I believe there have been at least 10 players. I mean, at least 10 teams, at least one player that has tested positive for the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And we were just talking about this going on the air. Tampa Bay just got 2 players that tested positive for coronavirus, and that was within the last 24 hours.
Well, right here in Nashville, George Kittle and the San Francisco 49ers had a bunch of guys working out together, and they've got coronavirus concerns. I don't know what the final number is there. I know at least one of them had it, and I'm willing to bet it's going to be more than that. And they look, those guys before they got together aren't getting tested, and that's what the NFL's talking about. They want to make sure if they're going to get people together that they can control as much as they can control. When guys are just getting ready to go work out at Brentwood Academy or Father Ryan, they're on their own. They're doing it. I mean, it's just like at Alabama when they had those 5-6 guys test positive. They were all working out together. There were no tests then. That's why they keep talking about testing being such a big key to all of this. And for some reason, they know more than we do. They think that when training camp gets here, that there's going to be saliva testing that is going to be readily available and accurate, that they're going to be able to do like 3-4 times a week. And so until they can start doing that, they don't want these guys together where they can all get sick because, one of the underlying conditions that can lead to real problems is being a really big person. And last I looked, there were a lot of really big people in the NFL.
Yeah, there's plenty. There are definitely plenty of big guys that and they could be very susceptible to that. And I mean, and then also you had other players that maybe had like when the draft was coming up, maybe had like a heart condition or some other type of condition that they were dealing with in the past before they got drafted. That could put them at risk as well, for this disease. And I mean, it could possibly put this season in doubt. I know that the NFL and Roger Goodell are still very optimistic about the 2020 season kicking off on time. But I like to ask you, Cory Curtis, being the professional that you are, do you believe that this Tennessee Titans season will kick off on time?
I think unless the coronavirus, COVID-19, takes a dramatic turn, they are going to start it on time. They are pushing as hard as they can to do it. I think when you hear about them moving the practice squad from 12 to 16 players, that is not for player evaluation. Yep. That is stacking the roster so that if you've got practice during the week and 6 guys go down with COVID-19, you've got enough bodies to replace them. They are stocking the shelves like we all stocked our cupboards with toilet paper back in February and March. The NFL is stocking with players and being prepared because, look, it's not if there's going to be COVID-19 positive players. It's how many and when and which teams get hit hardest. And they want those teams to be as prepared as possible because, a few months ago, I would have told you 2-3 positive tests during a week would cancel the game. And I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think they have positive tests. They'll put those guys back in quarantine. They'll test everybody the next day, and they'll move forward with the 16 guys they've got on the practice squad. So I think the NFL has every intention of starting this season, starting it on time, and having fans in the stands.
And that was actually going to be my very next question, which you basically alluded to that and answered it for me. I appreciate that. Would be, do you see fans in the stands? Because as you probably know, and everything, as a season ticket holder, hopefully one day being in the media box, that I just renew my tickets. I'll be coming up from Memphis for games.
Now you got an
Want to
email
make
about
sure.
that, though, right? You got an email
That's right.
asking
That's
you
right.
your feelings on sitting in a sold-out stadium, sitting 6 feet apart, or are you just not comfortable coming to games this year? So they're asking
Right.
questions about how fans feel.
That's true. I mean, honestly enough, if they did it to where it was maybe, a little bit apart, if it's just season ticket holders, I would be perfectly fine with that. If it's just season ticket holders and, add a few or anything, it doesn't have to be a sold out stadium. If it's just enough of us and everything, I'm perfectly fine with that. I just need some football in my life. I really do.
I don't know how
but yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah.
But
I don't know either. But they're going to have to figure that out. And it's definitely a wait to see process on that. But some other news that we're going to move on to is with all the protests and everything that has happened over George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, of course, in the sports world comes to one Mr. Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we all know what Colin Kaepernick has done in the past and everything with that and with the kneeling of the national anthem. But of course, now there is a possibility that he may actually get back into the NFL almost 4 years later. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly enough, on some articles, the Tennessee Titans have been listed as a potential landing spot for Colin Kaepernick.
All,
now, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We do have a needed backup quarterback. That is true. And, I did a show a while, maybe about a year or two ago, about Colin Kaepernick specifically, and I said, and I'm going, everybody out there watching this, understand I have my reasonings. I said, the unwarranted media attention, national media attention. Not sure if the coaches, and I believe that was Malarkey at the time that he was head coach. Would he cause a rift in the locker room? And also, because of where we are in the state of Tennessee, this being the Bible Belt, would Titan fans or any NFL fans be acceptable to him being a Titan? But I would like to ask you, now that it has been coming to this point that Colin Kaepernick is possibly going to be on the NFL roster, could he fit and be a realistic option for the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I think the Titans would be just like just about every other team in the NFL, Chris, and that is that there are going to be some fans who are going to be unhappy no matter what. I mean, and look, it goes in line like this. If you are following President Trump, you're probably going to be against Colin Kaepernick. All right. And I think his poll numbers keep him at about a steady 35%, fluctuating up and down, whatever. So you're going to have that percentage of fans who are probably going to be against it. And then you've got the rest of society, which, there was probably a good 30% or more who were against it before, who are probably much more open to it now. But the bigger news is the NFL is open to it now. I mean, Roger Goodell has said that teams should take a look at it, and you've already got Anthony Lynn saying they would be interested. Pete Carroll saying there are teams asking about it. The climate has changed for Colin Kaepernick. For sure. And I don't think the only question is does Colin Kaepernick still want to play? That's really the only question, because right. I think there could be opportunities for him. It's been a long time, and I would not just sign Colin Kaepernick to a roster, but he certainly is worthy of bringing in for a tryout. Okay. Now, if he's not willing to do a tryout, then he really doesn't want to play football. Okay. It's just like Antonio Brown with the whole helmet shenanigans. He didn't really want to play football. He wanted to do all the other stuff. And so if Colin Kaepernick really wants to play football, he'd be willing to come in for a tryout to show, yes, I can still play. And if you're the Tennessee Titans and you've got the backup quarterback situation that you've got, I don't know how you're not considering bringing him in for a tryout and seeing if you want to put him on your preseason roster. Now, I was on a show with Floyd Reese a few weeks ago, and he said, well, I'd hate to be the team that signed him and then cut him. Hey, that's just the job, man. And if you're not willing, if you don't want to make those tough decisions, don't have that job. And I think that there's also a reasonable expectation out there that people understand he may not be able to play anymore because it's been so long. But I also think that there's the expectation that he's, 31 years old? And you're not asking him to be your starter. You're just asking him to be better than Logan Woodside. I mean, this is a guy who's taken a team to a Super Bowl before.
I agree.
And so do you feel better week 10 of the NFL season having Colin Kaepernick as your starter for 2 weeks as you're trying to lock up a playoff spot, or Logan Woodside? And maybe Logan Woodside is better, and I don't know. But I know this. Logan Woodside has never taken a team to a Super Bowl or taken a snap in an NFL game.
Exactly. I mean, that is the important part of it, is that can Colin Kaepernick still play? Because, I mean, what does happen if Ryan Tannehill goes down? If Ryan Tannehill goes down and we got to go to Logan Woodside to win us a game, to finish up a game, my confidence level going skyrocketing down.
I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about for 4 weeks. What if Tannehill goes down with a sprained knee and he's down for 4 weeks? Do you want Kaepernick for 4
or longer, or ACL tear?
Well, then he's done for the season and your season's over. Your backup quarterback
pretty much
needs to be able to handle 4 weeks. That is really what you need. Can you get through 4 weeks at 2-2 and not totally sabotage your season? And listen, I don't know that Kaepernick would be ready week 1 or 2, but the hope is that, like I'm saying, week 8, 9, 10, he's had enough practice.
Yeah.
He's gotten the rush taken off where he can actually come out and play for you a little bit. And listen, the Titans aren't alone. There are other teams that should want to bring him in for a tryout. Isn't Matt Schaub still a backup quarterback in the National Football League? I mean,
if I'm not mistaken,
who the backup
yes.
is for the Minnesota Vikings? Sean Mannion. All right?
Wow.
Sean Mannion. He was bad when they drafted him. He was bad 5 years ago, and he is bad now, and for some reason he is still on an NFL team. You can't tell me that you don't want to take a look at Kaepernick when that is your backup quarterback. And just like with the Titans with Logan Woodside.
Yeah, they're awesome.
I don't hate Logan Woodside.
They're also bad one.
He's just completely unproven. And Kaepernick, again, has been to a Super Bowl.
That is a very compelling argument right there, because you're absolutely right. There are, for example, Josh McCown, is still in the league. I mean, he started a couple, but not really won anything. I think, a team like the Jets would love to have a guy like Kaepernick behind Sam Darnold. You got, even though Ryan Fitzpatrick in Miami.
I mean, there have been some horrendous quarterbacks out there. Horrendous.
Yeah. Hardest position to get correct. The hardest position to get correct. And if you get that correct, you are set. If you get it wrong, you're going to be going back to the well. Yes, definitely. Coaching is definitely another thing that definitely goes with that. So I definitely wouldn't mind bringing Kaepernick in, because you're right. You don't need him ready for the first 4 weeks. You need him ready for in the middle of the season, going into the grind towards the end before playoff time.
Yeah, because it's not realistic that week 1 he'd be ready to go. And by the way, Chris, I get all these people who like, they're against Kaepernick, and that's fine. But they say, well, what about Tannehill? What about him? This isn't about Ryan Tannehill. It's about being your backup. Nobody in the NFL is bringing Kaepernick in to be their starter. The question is, can he be your 2?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, you always know how it is with the backup quarterback. When the starting quarterback struggles, who becomes the most popular guy on the team? The backup quarterback. Especially if you got a good one. Especially if you're in a decent situation. There are going to be some people that's like, I'm just waiting on Ryan Tannehill to screw up so Kaepernick can go in. Only thing is, I don't need Ryan Tannehill to screw up right now. I think we're good with the starter. Kaepernick comes and backs him up, and things like that. And if it comes to that, if he has to go in, so be it. But don't be calling for Ryan Tannehill's head right off the bat just to get Kaepernick in.
I don't think
let it be where it's absolute. Yeah, it's got to be absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I don't think. Look, when they brought in Tannehill last year, the people who were already shaky on Mariota were just ready to turn the page. I mean, the moment he threw an incomplete pass, they were ready to move on. Tannehill's got everybody firmly in his corner right now. So he's got a couple years of equity. So, and also everybody knows who's behind him. Okay. When Tannehill was behind Mariota, there was something tangible there to point at. Right now, we're pointing at a 7th-round pick who's never taken an NFL snap. And by the way, the next backup has never even taken a practice snap. All right. The Titans' backup quarterback situation is completely void of any kind of experience whatsoever. I mean, it's something that really needs to be addressed.
I agree. I definitely agree because again, like we said earlier, if Tannehill goes down, we're in trouble. We are in major trouble. And everybody's just going to just say, you know what? Stack up, take down Henry. We're good, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's not going to get it done.
But now, I agree. I definitely agree. Will not get it done. Absolutely. Got to have a quarterback. So, J-Rob, Vrabel, at least take a look at him. At least take a look. That's see what we got. So, but one other thing we want to definitely get into in some news, and let's go to the other side of the ball, to the defensive side. We know this story is kind of dialed down a bit, but it is still up there. And it is the question on a lot of other Titan fans' mind. It is, are we going to get this done with one Jadeveon Clowney? Can the Titans get this done and get him in a Titans uniform?
Are you asking me? Because
I am asking.
They need to get it done. I've been pointing at the Titans and Clowney for 2 years, Chris. I've been saying that this is a marriage that's going to happen for 2 years. When it became evident he didn't want to stay in Houston, and when the Titans didn't spend their money on a pass rusher, I said they're saving it to spend on somebody else. And I said to myself, who makes the most sense? And I said Jadeveon Clowney, because Mike Vrabel has worked with Jadeveon Clowney. Jadeveon Clowney had his best years under Mike Vrabel. Look, he's turned down $18 million from the Browns, supposedly, $15 million allegedly from Seattle. All right, he doesn't want to be at those places. Now, I don't think the Titans are probably offering as much as either of those deals, and so he's in no rush to take that money. But we're closer to Rock Hill, South Carolina. He's got a head coach here who he knows and trusts. He's got one of his best friends in the world here in Jonathan Joseph. And let me also say, Chris, the Titans are in their window. They're in their window. They just went to the AFC Championship. And who do you have to beat to get to the big game? You've got to beat Patrick Mahomes.
Kansas City.
How do you beat Patrick Mahomes? You got to put his fanny on the turf. You've got to be able to come with waves of pass rushers. And if you're counting on Vic Beasley being the same Vic Beasley from a few years ago, that might happen, but that is a Patriots pick all the way. The Patriots love distressed assets. Vic Beasley was a distressed asset, and it's a smart move, but it's still a bit of a gamble. Jadeveon Clowney, whether he gets 3 sacks or 15, is a 3-down player who shuts down the run, gets consistent pressure on the quarterback, and makes plays, and he is somebody you have to account for. Look, the Titans are in their window. They've got a guy who I don't know, but a guy who I think wants to be here. They have got to find a way to get this done, because that goes to the Titans from a team where if everything goes right, you think they got a chance to, well, wait a minute, is it going to be Titans and Chiefs in the AFC Championship do-over? That's what everybody's going to be talking about.
I agree. And this is the thing about me, and you actually just put on a point that I've been trying to drive home for a very long time. And I will probably say to a friend of both of us, especially to you, to one Mr. Jared Stillman.
Oh, Jared.
I have said this. I have
he
said.
doesn't like Clowney.
I have said this. I said on his show, and I quote, "We have not a guy since maybe Javon Curse or Albert Hainsworth, and I'll give Kyle Vanderbosch too, a guy that literally strikes fear onto the other side of the ball. Somebody that when the quarterback comes to the line, he has to look. He has to think, where's he at? Where's he at? Where's 90? Where's 90? Find Clowney. Find Clowney. Okay, he's over there. Make sure you block him. Make sure you block him. Because with like Houston, you're always looking for where J.J. Watt is. You're always looking for, with Cleveland, you're looking where's Myles Garrett? Where is he? Make sure he's blocked. We haven't a guy like that, especially on the defensive line. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons may become that guy, but we haven't had one guy that keeps an offensive coordinator up at night thinking we have got to scheme a way to make sure this guy does not wreck our plan, and Clowney can definitely wreck a game plan consistently. We know, like you said, Kansas City, that's the team we're going to have to beat to get to the Super Bowl. Another team we're going to have to get past, who has, I've said all offseason, has geared up specifically for the Tennessee Titans, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. We got to come at Lamar Jackson. What does Clowney do well? Also do well? Stopping the run game. And that is, the Ravens are built, yeah, exactly. And they're building to stop us. They're built to come at Henry. We got to build to stop them too. So I agree. Clowney to the Titans it makes too much logical sense.
They cleared $10 million in cap space by trading away Jarrell Casey. And if they have to have an idea for that money, because you're a worse team without Jarrell Casey. All right. So if you're going to get rid of Jarrell Casey and only replace him with Jack Crawford, you've made yourself a worse football team. And that is not a very good decision. So I continue to believe that they have bigger plans for that money because they need it. And I think about it now when you look at a defensive line, when you're talking about playing Kansas City, where you can line up Daquan Jones in the middle and you can flank him with Jeffrey Simmons and Jadeveon Clowney, and then on the outside put Vic Beasley and Harold Landry. Well, now you got something. Now you've got 5 points of attack that the Chiefs are going to have to deal with. 5 different guys who can hit your quarterback from any time, any different direction. And you got a couple of guys who can get there in 2 seconds, okay? And we've seen how good Patrick Mahomes is. And I got bad news for everybody. He's only going to get better. All right. So if you want to get to the Super Bowl,
you ain't going nowhere.
You got to find a way to beat him, and you're not going to beat him going cheap.
I agree. I definitely agree because, like you said, if you have all those guys going at Mahomes, guess whose life is made easier by that? Adoree, Christian Fulton, Byard. They can have pick parties with something like that because that alters throws, that alters routes. That can alter routes with a pass rush. They throw ahead of time.
The Patriots, they got all over their quarterbacks, and they made both of those guys, who are MVPs, look ordinary.
Exactly. And one last thing that we do, and we're going to get to some questions from some viewers, is there was and this is kicks and giggles, which I thought was kind of funny, interesting, is there have been some articles also out with Jamal Adams from the Jets requesting a trade. Obviously, the logical destination is, from what I've been hearing, the Dallas Cowboys. But there have been some articles suggesting that the Tennessee Titans should possibly just take a look at Jamal Adams. Now, again, as much as I screamed for the Titans in the draft to draft Jamal Adams at 5, which is what they should have did in the first place. For kicks and giggles, and I know this is not a real possibility, do the Titans even possibly entertain that possible option of bringing a Jamal Adams in?
No. I mean, there's no look. Number one, you've already got Kevin Byard, all right, and then you've got Kenny Vaccaro. You're not replacing Byard. Byard is your guy, all right. You're not going to replace him.
Absolutely.
And so are you going to line those two guys up side by side and spend $27 million a year on the safety position? No, you're not. He's also in the last year of
It's
his
a lot of
contract.
money.
Yeah. So, and also he's going to cost you first round picks. So you're going to dump first round picks. You're going to get all tied up in the salary cap in a position, safety, which you really shouldn't get that tied up in the salary cap position. There is no way whatsoever that trading for Jamal Adams makes sense for the Tennessee Titans. Let me just put it to you simply this way. Are the Titans better dealing draft picks and $10 million more for Jamal Adams, or are they simply better by giving Jadeveon Clowney $15 million a year and not losing draft picks?
I'm taking Clowney. I'm taking Clowney 100 times out of 100.
Well, there you go.
That's not even exactly. And don't get me wrong, I love Jamal Adams, the player. I think he would have been great on this team, but nah, I take any day of the week. We are 100% fine exactly where we are with Vaccaro and Byard. No need to mess that up.
No.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Look, people still don't know.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
They don't know. I mean, he's not only not only a guy who gets interceptions, but he is one of the best run defending free safeties in the National Football League as well. And he's a tone setter in the locker room. I mean,
I love him.
I cannot say enough good things about Kevin Byard, and there's not a single safety in the league you can tell me to replace him with.
Oh, absolutely not. I think Byard is, if Byard is not one of the best safeties in the league, he's definitely top 2 or top 3,
if he plays
without a doubt.
Cowboys,
I mean,
he's a national star.
Yep, he is. He is. He played, like you said, Cowboys, everybody's talking about him. If, the Giants were good and he's there, they're talking about him.
Titans,
any big-time team. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, yeah, I bet Deion Sanders isn't saying that now.
He may not still know who he is.
Well, they're going to keep learning. They are going to keep learning. And shout out to Kevin Byard, by the way, as well. Was able to buy his mom a house, I believe, in Murfreesboro.
Oh, did he buy it? I didn't know where it was when he bought it.
I want to say it was in Murfreesboro. I might be wrong.
Well,
I might be wrong on that.
In Atlanta, so I didn't know if they bought it down in Atlanta or not. But it'd be nice if she could come up here and watch her son play. Yeah,
but I do know he bought her a house. I will not quote myself as to where. So, if my facts are incorrect, if you're out there, please correct me. Please correct me on that. Good. But we're going to quickly go into one of my favorite segments of the show, and we get Cory Curtis to enjoy this part, and that is called Pick My Brain. Pick my brain.
Anything else.
Well, I mean, it's really not much else to pick out from me, especially. I mean, the brain is always trying to work. So we definitely going to try to work something out there. But got a couple of questions that came in, and wanted to get your opinion. And the first one is, what is your opinion about a fair and affordable price tag for Derrick Henry, given our available cap space? Because he says he doesn't think we can afford to pay him Christian McCaffrey money, but what would be an affordable price tag for Derrick Henry?
You want like a total deal or a per year?
Let's see. Probably given cap space, I would probably say per year.
Okay. How about this? I'm gonna shape the deal for you. Okay.
All right.
4 years, $54 million. That's 13.5 per, with about 25 million guaranteed. Okay. Paid out to where you can escape the deal in year 2, after year 2, or after year 3. Okay. And the reason I come up with these numbers is because if he's tagged this year and next year, that's 23 million, those 2 seasons. 23 million guaranteed over 2 seasons if he's tagged those 2 years. Okay. So to me, the contract negotiations start at 2 years, 23 million guaranteed. That's where they start at. All right. Yeah. And so then you're simply trying to nudge him up from there. And look, you can go into the Ezekiel Elliott contract, and you can go into the Todd Gurley contract. You can go into these contracts and tear them apart and see that they're not necessarily what everybody thinks they really are. Okay. So, the way these things are constructed, can be very different than what you hear. And like a lot of times you hear guaranteed money. A lot of times it's called guaranteed money, but it's only guaranteed if he's actually on the roster at that point. So it's not really guaranteed. But so that to me, I think is fair to both sides. 4 years, 54 million, 13.5 with about 25 million guaranteed. And that to me, I would go good deal for both. Move forward.
I like it. I like it a lot, and I mean that is very similar to Teron Davenport TD when he was talking about he had put out a possible contract for Ryan Tannehill. It was a little bit more than that, but it was about the same wavelength as that, and I absolutely agree. I would 13.5 sounds about the perfect number. 13.5, I'm good with that. If you push 14, okay, but it's a tad too much to me. But about 13.5 is just right. I would not go much further than that. I absolutely agree.
Well, and I hate to say this. I mean, he's still relatively a 2-down player. I mean,
agreed.
He can be on the field in 3rd down, but there's a reason they spent a 3rd-round pick on Darrington Evans. All right, and that's because they want him on the field on 3rd down. And so it might be for the Titans. All Derrick Henry is worth is $23 million for the next 2 years. You know, and if you're Derrick Henry, that's not bad money. Okay,
it's not. No, it's not.
Especially considering it's guaranteed. All right, you know he got tagged this year. That money is his no matter what right now. And if the Titans tagged him again next year, it would go up to like 12.8, and it would be guaranteed. The thing that Derrick Henry has control of is that if he can put up another season, and it doesn't have to be the same as last one because last year was fantastic, but if it's close to last year, he will guarantee himself a 20% plus raise because he'll get that with the next – because then they would have to franchise tag him at the minimum. So he just knows if I go out and play the way I can play, I'm going to make at least 20% more next year than I made this year. I don't know what you do, Chris, when you're not doing Titans in Truth, but if I told you if you had a good year, you could make 20% more next year, you would probably take that deal.
Oh, I would. There is no question about it. I would take that deal. Take the deal. I would take the deal. I would not even question it. There is no doubt in my mind about that. Got another question. Let's see. That was from Mr. Mike Adams. And then from Mr. Alton Hood, Mr. Tighten Up Two-Step himself. He says, based upon Khalif Raymond's impact last season, do you think Arthur Smith will call him more to stretch the field out?
That's a very interesting question. I thought adding Khalif Raymond to the active roster was one of the really underrated moves of last season because the moment they added his speed, you could see the difference it makes. I don't remember who it was, but it was a game at Nissan Stadium, and it was his first game. And I remember watching him, and Tannehill just missed him because he ran right by the defender, and he was wide open, and Tannehill threw the ball somewhere else. And I remember asking Mike Vrabel about it on Monday. He's like, yeah, he played like 3 snaps, but he was wide open for a touchdown on one of them. And I was shocked that he admitted it, but he did. But go back to the Baltimore game in the playoffs. You remember he had a 52-yard touchdown? You know how many snaps
it was a nice bomb. Right after after stopping them on 4th down.
He played 4 snaps in that game, and one of them was a 50-yard touchdown. He is a lightning rod for this football team because, look, we know Antonio Brown can run. Corey Davis can run, all right? Adam Humphries can run. They can all run. Khalif Raymond can run. I mean, Khalif Raymond can go. He's got another half a gear to him. And so, are they planning on ways to utilize that speed? Absolutely. Do I still see him playing more than 10 to 12 snaps a game? Probably not. Because do you want him to have the ball or Antonio Brown? I know.
I take AJ Brown, definitely.
Or AJ Brown, sorry. Or Jonnu Smith. I think Jonnu Smith led tight ends last year in yards after the catch or yards after contact, one of the two.
Oh, he's a monster. He's a monster now, from what I'm hearing.
So there are other guys you want to get the ball to as well, but adding Khalif Raymond definitely brought an element to the offense that this team didn't have, and the fact that they didn't draft a speed guy at that position in the draft when it was a really good draft for wide receivers says to me they believe he is a part of this offense and is going to be able to contribute going forward. Also, he's a cap-friendly guy. He's a guy you have on your roster, and he makes it more manageable, and those guys are important.
I agree. I definitely agree because that was, you got to think that because they got rid of Tajay Sharp, and like you said, there were plenty of speed receivers that the Titans could have drafted in the draft. I mean, one I was thinking about in the third round, I was hoping that would still be there, and of course, Baltimore would take them right in front of us. Was Devin Duvernay from Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, stepped right in front of us and took him, and I could tell I honestly thought that was the Ravens trying to shoot at us, basically. So yeah, I definitely like Khalif Raymond's impact, and I mean, the Chiefs game was another one at home. Hit him for a good pass, and I honestly thought to a fan that was sitting beside me, I'm thinking if Tannehill just put a little bit more and let Raymond get up under it, Raymond's not falling to catch that pass. He's catching it in stride and walking into the end zone, honestly enough. But that was a heck of a pass.
And, that's another thing that was underrated about Raymond is when the ball came to him, he caught it. I mean, he didn't have a ton of opportunities, but he absolutely took advantage of every single one of them. And by the way, he also fits that John Robinson mold of the guy who refuses to take no for an answer. The Titans aren't his first rodeo. He's been around the block.
Right.
He's been cut a time or two, but he has stuck
Quite a
with
few.
it. And I mean, let's say it like it is. He won football games for them last year. He made plays that helped them win football games. And there's no reason to believe he can do it this year.
Absolutely, because I mean, like you said, the Baltimore game put us ahead. The Indianapolis game pretty much sealed that game. Yeah, pretty much sealed that play, sealed that game for us. So that was definitely good. Another question from Mr. Mike Adams comes in and says, how much of an impact, we talked about this earlier, how much of an impact do you expect from one Vic Beasley? Now, we talked earlier as far as, if you're expecting Beasley to go back to form of the 15 sacks, we might be asking a little bit too much, but how much of an impact do you think Vic Beasley could really make?
Look, if he's hungry, he can make a big impact, all right? And he's going to be put in an opportunity. Shane Bowen said this on our conference call with him a couple weeks ago. They need to put him in positions to do things he does well. Now, look, he needs to get better stopping the run. But I guarantee you this, he's going to be in third and long. He's going to be on the field, all right? And and ideally, not only does he get sacks, but he helps Harold Landry get sacks as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he can make an impact for Harold Landry as well. But it's all on Vic Beasley because we know Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen can make him better if he wants to be better. Yeah, you got him cheap, and I know $9.5 million doesn't sound cheap, but this is a guy who's capable of getting 15 sacks in a season. They don't grow on trees, all right? So if Vic Beasley comes in here this year and is hungry and learns from Shane Bowen and learns from Mike Vrabel and turns out 13 sacks, guess what he's getting next year? He's
a new deal.
Paid. And so
he's going to have a new deal.
They have him on a good deal. That's why I say it's all on Vic Beasley. We're going to know if he's hungry or not. And if he's hungry, then it's unbelievable. If he wasn't hungry, it was worth a shot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're going to take one last question. And it kind of gets into what my breakout star question would be. And he says, who do you expect to take a bigger leap for next season? Harold Landry, Rashaan Evans, or Jayon Brown?
Well, I mean, I think all three of those guys are already pretty good players. I mean, I thought Harold took a nice leap last year, and I thought Rashaan took a nice leap last year. And I think, I hate to say that we've seen, I don't know that we're going to see much more from Jayon Brown. And I'm not saying he won't make plays. I think we've seen kind of the top of where Jayon Brown is. I mean, this is a guy who can really run, who can get after receivers, who can rush the quarterback. He's a good football player. We were talking about here, we have a talk show that we do every day called Sports Extra Daily on Facebook.
Yep.
And we were talking about the 4 other guys other than Henry who could get extended before the season starts. And Jayon Brown was like the #1 name that was coming up because he means so much to the Titans pass defense, and he has been so much and so important to them. So Jayon Brown is already a really good football player. So I don't know how much more we're going to see from him. I think Rashaan Evans is already a really good football player. I don't know how much more he's got. I mean, but I think Harold Landry is a guy who we saw go from 4.5 sacks to 9, and I think he could go to 12. So I would say Harold Landry would be my guy who would take the biggest leap of those three. And having said that, I like all three already.
I agree. I love all three, and I think, honestly enough, to me, Jayon Brown, I thought probably should have made the Pro Bowl last season. Yeah. Not this past season, but the season before. I thought Jayon should have made the Pro Bowl, honestly enough. Landry, I think, yes, I was hoping he'd get that 10th sack. I was scratching for him to get that 10th sack, and I hate he couldn't get it. Yeah, he did. And I wanted him to get that last sack, but he couldn't get to it. But he still made a vast improvement. But now, before we end the show, we're gonna bring in a new series that we're gonna be starting on Titans in Truth, and I'm glad to have Cory Curtis here to start it off with us, and it is called The High Low. And we're going to be talking specifically draft picks in the history of the Tennessee Titans organization since the year 2000. We're in the last 20 years. This will not include, unfortunately, Eddie George, Steve McNair, Bruce Matthews, Mike Munchak, Javon Curse, just outside the list because he was picked in 99. Robert Brazell, the Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, those guys are now not going to be talked about on the list, but we know those guys are greats, are absolute greats for this team. But we're going to start with the first round. And as each week, we're going to be talking each round. So next week's show, we're going to be talking about round 2. But for tonight, we're going to be talking round 1. And then I'm actually going to put up for everybody the listing of all the draft picks that the Titans have had since 2000. And we start here with the one and only Mr. Keith Bullock, Mr. Monday Night in 2000. In 2001, of course, they didn't have a pick. In 2002, you got Albert Haynesworth from Tennessee. In 2003, Andre Woolfolk from Oklahoma.
Do you know who
2004, no pick. Who was that supposed to be?
It was supposed to be the big running back from Penn State, who went to Kansas City. I forgot his name.
I want to. Who is that guy? Who is that guy?
He was a running back. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. But he was.
I cannot remember his name.
The heir apparent.
I cannot remember his name.
And they had Priest Holmes, and so the Titans.
Yeah.
Titans thought they had him. They thought because they didn't think anybody was going to take him. And so that they were all set, and they had the card, they were ready to go, and then the Chiefs, who already had Priest Holmes, took him, and they were totally deflated.
That might have been Larry Johnson.
Larry Johnson, that was his name. Larry Johnson.
Okay.
He was supposed to be the heir apparent to Eddie George, and the Titans thought they had him, and they were completely crushed when the Chiefs went and took another running back. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, absolutely not. You're spreading knowledge, and I'm good with that. I am definitely good with that. Hit me with it. But of course, in 2004, they didn't have a pick. In 2005, of course, we get the infamous Mr. Adam Pac-Man Jones from West Virginia. In 2006, in 2007, we go double with Texas with Vince Young in 2006 and Griff in 2007. Of course, I called him Whiff and Griffin at times. Then in 2000, he is. He was a good football player. And actually, you know what? Shout out to Michael Griffin, because you know what? I have to admit, I'm honored. He follows me on Twitter. So I give Michael Griffin some love, and I know he has a lot of love for the animals in the community and things like that. And I believe he was working on the team, I guess, as an intern, like a defensive assistant or something like that.
I think he was the minority intern that year.
Okay.
But yeah, he did do that for a year.
Yes. And then, of course, we got CJ2K in 2008 from East Carolina. I mean, there's not really a lot more we can say about CJ. He definitely electrified all of us with a lot of moves that he made. In 2009, we got Kitty Britt. And then in 2010, Derek Morgan from Georgia Tech. So that was the first 10 years since 2000 we had some draft picks. And, you know, some of those names that come out to me, of course, Chris Johnson being one, Vince Young being another, and I mean, Albert Haynesworth. Even though I know there are times that, you know, he kind of got in his own way, Albert Haynesworth was a monster defender, was a monster in the middle.
Those 2 years where he was on a contract year were two of the best years I've ever seen a defensive lineman have. And I grew up watching the Chicago Bears. Okay, this guy for 2 years was just about unblockable.
Absolutely. Definitely a big time player with him, Kyle Vanden Bosch, even Kurtz coming back the second time. I mean, who wanted to go up against that defensive line? And Tony Brown from my alma mater of Memphis was a little underrated, had a decent year, the year that we were undefeated for quite some time before we lost the game. And I mean, I like the Javon Curse chain. He had the chain for every win and everything. So that was actually pretty cool with that. But now to the last 10 years, we started in 2011. And of course, there is the Jake Locker pick. Did not like that one from Washington. Kendall Wright in 2012 from Baylor. 2013, the Titans took Chance Warmack from Alabama. 2014, Taylor Lewan. And this was a pick I did not like at first.
You were wrong.
But I have to admit, I was so wrong in so many ways. And then in 2015, of course, we get Marcus Mariota from Oregon. This was, and of course, the first year of the J-Rob era started with Jack Conklin from Michigan State. In 2017, of course, you got Corey Davis and Adoree Jackson. In 2018, you got Rashaan Evans. And then in 2019, you got Big Jeffrey Simmons. And just this year, back in May, we took Isaiah Wilson from Georgia. And those were all of the picks from 2000 in the first round. And so with all of those names, we know that there were some good ones. We know there were some not so good ones. I want to find out, first off, who do you have as your high, your boom, just the guy that you felt was the best first round draft pick since 2000 with those names? I know that's a difficult question. I'll give you a moment.
Because I think I've got it narrowed down to two players, and I think they might both surprise you. Because, I mean, look, CJ was a boom, but it was a short-term boom. I mean, it was like 3-4 really good years. Albert Haynesworth had 2 really dominant years. You know, Marcus Mariota helped change, you know, the culture here with the Tennessee Titans. Jack Conklin was a good player. You know, they've had other guys who were good players. And so, like I said, it may surprise you, but the 2 guys I'm looking at are Keith Bullock and Taylor Lewan. I mean, Taylor Lewan has been a rock-solid left tackle for the Titans. What's he been to 3 Pro Bowls? Again, was a pick that not a lot of people liked. But Keith Bullock was the 30th pick of the draft, okay? I mean, he was the end of the first round. And because he wasn't an edge rushing linebacker, he didn't get all the accolades that everyone else did. But for 9 years, he was a sensational player for the Tennessee Titans who never missed games until that last year when he got hurt. I'll always have a spot for Keith Bullock. And so I look at those 2 guys and I say, for my first round money, of all those picks, because of durability and duration and consistency of play, I think I like those 2 guys. And look, I understand there are arguments to be made for other guys, but I'm looking at the length of their production and the consistency of their production and how high end that production was as well. And I know people are going to pick on Taylor Lewan. Look, I've seen Taylor Lewan go head-to-head with Von Miller and Khalil Mack and stone these guys and hold them sackless for a game. He has been I think if Taylor wasn't the wild card that he is as a human being, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, just that he's a different kind of guy, that he wouldn't be looked at kind of like he is. He's been a great football player for the Tennessee Titans, and so I hate having to pick between those two.
No,
but I guess because he was 30th, I'll take Bullock.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing about that. You are absolutely not wrong with either one of those guys. And, you know, with Keith Bullock, I was thinking about that too, is that he was picked at the end of the first round. And, you know, he just came in and was just a great player. Got the name Mr. Monday Night with the game against the New Orleans Saints. I mean, made Drew Brees' life miserable that night.
Which was even better.
It was beautiful. It was a beautiful Monday night of football. I agree. And with Taylor Lewan, here's a little story that I have about that particular pick, because I remember watching the draft, and I believe there was guys like Odell Beckham that was right there behind him and some other players. And I'm thinking, when Rustin Webster made that pick of Taylor Lewan, I'm thinking we were already set at offensive tackle. We did not need another tackle at the time. I actually would say that. Now, granted, I got love. I am, even though I'm from the University of Memphis, and Memphis is my first team, I have love for the University of Michigan. So for that, I give some love to Taylor Lewan. But I was, like you said, I was not a fan of that pick at all at first. I am very happy to say I was proven wrong. Taylor Lewan is one of the best tackles in this game today. Plain and simple. Like you said, has stonewalled some of the best defensive linemen in this game
by himself. And
alone.
You know, when Jack Conklin came in and was all pro as a rookie, he had somebody anchored to his hip virtually every game. They were not going to let him get exposed. And so that's part of the reason he was able to be all pro. They put him in position to succeed, which is what good coaching staffs do. Taylor Lewan, from the moment he's been out there at left tackle, has been a man on an island because he is that kind of athlete and he is that kind of player. When you can have a guy at that position, left tackle, going against the guys he's got to go against, and you can just say, Taylor, handle it, and he does,
right?
It's hugely important. And again, if he's, like Kevin Byard, playing in Dallas, if he's playing for the New York Giants, if he's playing for the New England Patriots, he is a national star. But he's here with the Tennessee Titans, and so he's not.
Exactly. He's, you know, even though he's went to, I want to say, 3 consecutive Pro Bowls already? And I mean,
I don't think he went this last year, but I think
right. Okay. I stand corrected, but I mean, with those teams,
you were right about that.
Oh, okay. But with those teams, he's going every year. There is no questions. There's no questions.
He should have gone the year before that he started going, and that's usually the way it is. People miss the first year where they really should go to the Pro Bowl. That happened with
Absolutely. And I think, and there is one player that I thought about that is a little bit underrated, that, you know, might have been a little bit underrated, maybe not necessarily the boom guy or the high guy, but somebody that, you know, was a little bit of a dark horse that nobody probably expected to do anything and ended up doing some good things. I would say, for one, was so far Adoree', even though he doesn't have the interceptions that would like for him to have, but he has become a very, very solid cornerback in this league. And I mean, obviously, we see that now because they picked up his 5th-year option. So they picked up his option. So obviously, he's done a lot of good. And even though his numbers were never just peaking like it should, I mean, I have to give Derek Morgan some love. He had some longevity. He played 9 years on this team.
He's,
you know,
all very good. Derek was. I mean, look, he was a. You know, if he wasn't a first-round pick, people would love that pick. But because he's in the first round, they go, well, you know what? He was a good football player, and you can't have enough good football players. Was he a great football player? No, he wasn't great. He wasn't Pro Bowl. You know, he wasn't Jarrell Casey, but he was good. He did whatever you asked him to do. He worked on his body. He got other guys on the team to work on your bodies. He was a constant influence and a positive influence on this football team. I will never have a problem with the pick of Derek Morgan for the Tennessee Titans. He was a good player. Now, to me, Derek Morgan, Adoree Jackson, you can't mention them in the same breath with these other guys that we're talking about.
Agreed.
At least not yet. Now, like you said, Adoree's got some ability. There's a reason they picked up his fifth-year option. Now, his fifth-year option as the 18th pick of the draft is a hell of a lot different than Corey Davis's was at the 5th, because Corey Davis is another guy who at the 5th pick of the draft, you're going, if Corey Davis was selected in the 2nd or 3rd round, you'd be like, we love Corey. But because of where he was picked, he gets judged a little bit differently, because I still think Corey Davis is a very good football player and makes this team better. And I think that
I agree.
It would behoove the Titans to sign Corey Davis to an extension, in my opinion, because I love the idea of having Corey Davis and A.J. Brown side by side for 4 years. I have watched this team for 20 years struggle to put one good receiver on the field.
Agreed.
And now they got a chance to put at least 2 on every snap.
Yep.
Get it done.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I know there are a lot of fans out there that have given up on Corey Davis. I am not one of them. I mean, I agree they shouldn't have picked up his 5th-year option, but this could be the year that he shows.
Look, when you're a top 10 pick, all right, you have got to be a star to get that 5th-year option picked up, because the price tag is ridiculous. I don't remember what it was going to be for Corey, but it was probably, $15-16 million?
I want to say it was north of 15.
Yeah,
I want to say it was north of 15.
But I think if you could get Corey to sign for 4 years and $40 million, I would take that in a heartbeat.
That's a bargain.
To go forward. Because you just gave Adam Humphries $9 million a year. He doesn't block. He doesn't play every snap. And he's never topped 800 yards in a season.
I agree with that. And I mean, what a lot of people don't notice is all the other things that Corey Davis does do well. I mean, he does make some tough catches and is an insanely excellent blocker.
Yeah,
I mean, a terrific blocker.
That's not why you keep a receiver, but it's an intangible as to another reason you want to. Look, bottom line, Chris, if I told you Corey Davis went for 1,000 yards this year, would it surprise you?
No.
And me either. We all think he can be a 1,000-yard guy, right?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
So what are we talking about? Let's get inside.
Hey, this is why we got Cory Curtis, because he just brings the facts. He brings the boom to it. And so finally, when there's always a high, there's also a low. We know there's a guy. And there's many on this list that could be qualified. You just had the high expectations, and they just disappoint and bust out. Yeah. And I already have at least 3 I could think about. But, Corey, I defer to you first.
Well, listen, I mean, Adam Jones was a complete and utter disaster. But the fact is, he was a good football player when he was on the field. There's no denying that. I think Michael Griffin's much better than most people do. Kenny Britt should have been a star in the NFL and wasn't. I know a lot of people dislike Jake Locker and despise Jake Locker. Jake went out and won some football games, was never lived up to the 8th pick of the draft, but no one was as bad as Andre Woolfolk.
Yeah, that is probably the easiest one. I agree. I mean, just wasn't that good at all. And I think even Mr. Floyd has probably said, I regret that pick. Because like you said, they were focused on another player, and they had to basically scrounge and have to go back to the drawing board when your pick, the one that you putting everything on.
Down the hallway celebrating that they were going to get Larry Johnson.
And then Chiefs snatched them right up. And I think that's what we all learned. Yeah, you got to go discreet. You got to be discreet. You can't just yell what you're going to do, because then somebody else is going to be like, oh, that's what they're going to do?
I don't think
Let us do that.
The Titans were going to take him, because the Titans had Eddie George at the time. So I don't think people necessarily thought the Titans were going to take him. But that was going to be their guy. That's what they were going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when you talk about Pac-Man, yeah, I agree. On the field, he was a pretty good player. Off the field was where all the problems were. And the same with Kenny Britt, too. Kenny Britt, I want to say, one season, he was starting off like a house of fire.
Yeah.
He started off, I think he had close to 300 yards in the first, like, 2 or 3 games. It looked like
he had that 80-yard touchdown in Jacksonville.
Yes.
And they were in position to win that game when Matt Hasselbeck threw a horrible interception. But then, like, the next week, the Ravens came to town and simply had no answer for him whatsoever. I mean, they had Chris McAllister back then, and they could not stop him. And you were like, oh my God, he is going to be the best receiver in Titans history. And he was.
And then he had the ACL injury, and I put him out because I was even thinking that. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he might actually have a Pro Bowl season this year. Yeah. He's on his way to a Pro Bowl season. And then the injury happened, and it kind of derailed all of that. Like Pat, man, off the field, if he just kept it up here right, Britt could be good. Yes, Jake Locker, I think, for me, was a possible pick as well. And it's not really, I mean, on the field, Jake Locker was tough as nails. He's tough. Yes, he had the injury concerns and everything, but I remember specifically, I was volunteering, working in the concession stand with some of my fraternity brothers. The game against he was phenomenal, awesome in that half. And you're thinking, okay, spank the Jets really good, and then all of a sudden, one injury happened, and it just messed up everything. And I'm like, he was on a roll. I think we were 3-1 at that time, and
beat the Chargers with that pass to Justin Hunter.
Yeah, yes, I remember that too, absolutely. But
and
just
that Ken Wisenhunt came in and completely torpedoed him. Okay, Ken Wisenhunt gave him no chance. Remember, he had a huge game against the Browns here under the Wisenhunt that they managed to lose in Wisenhunt fashion. But it wasn't because of Jake Locker. And he blamed Jake Locker in front of the team for that loss. And nobody could believe what they were hearing. All right, so when the quarterback gets ambushed by the head coach, he's got no chance. And you know what? For anybody who thinks Jake Locker wasn't any good, go watch the guy who replaced him, okay? Because he sucked. He was terrible.
Absolutely. And who did replace him?
Zach
oh my
Mettenberger.
Goodness. You know
Mettenberger,
what? Thank you. Thank you for informing me of that.
Son-in-law replaced him.
Oh my goodness. The Mettenberger.
I just want to have fun.
Oh my goodness.
Have you ever heard Peyton Manning, Drew Brees say they just want to have fun? Well, that's what Zach Mettenberger wants to do. He wants to go have fun.
Exactly. I mean, I still remember him with the headband on, and I mean, he looked like a 70s guy that just was like in the groove. Like, he was definitely an interesting guy off the field, but
no, he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was
on the field,
he was a clown.
Yeah,
he was a clown, and that's it.
And Zach Mettenberger definitely.
National Football League, and it's an embarrassment that head coach chose him to lead this football team. It just shows the head coach's complete lack of ability to judge talent and character. It was unbelievable. He's the worst head coach I've ever covered at any level. I wouldn't ask him to coach a 6th grade squad.
I know that's right. And here's why I say that, because I always used to call him Wizen Can't, because he just couldn't do the job. He just couldn't do the job. And I still remember looking at the head coaching possibilities, because you had him, you had Jay Gruden, and you had Zimmer. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us are thinking, man, I think we'd have been a lot better if we had Mike Zimmer as the head coach.
Rustin Webster wanted to hire? Mike Zimmer. But he wasn't the one doing the hiring. Tommy Smith did the hiring.
Smith was.
So again, I'm going to defend Rustin Webster, who wanted to hire the right guy.
And what was crazy about that is that whole time, Tommy Smith didn't even do it face to face. If I'm mistaken.
No, he never.
If I'm not mistaken,
he called him up and offered him the job
without an interview.
Okay, this is how it went down. All right.
All right.
Tommy and Rustin are on the phone, and Rustin's kind of going over the list of candidates, and Tommy says, "I want a coach who calls his own plays like Andy Reid." He goes, "Well, if that's the kind of coach you want Ken Whisenhunt." He said, "But you have to beat the Jets and the Browns to him because they're both interested." And he called up Whisenhunt and offered him the job. That was it.
I would have let the Jets and Browns have
the
him.
Lions wanted him too. The Lions had their plane.
Yeah.
They had because I looked it up. The Lions had their plane on the runway with the flight information in to fly to San Diego to go get him.
Wow. And that is some very good information. And because I remember looking at that and I was thinking, okay, Jay Gruden, nah. I'm thinking between Whisenhunt and Zimmer. And I'm like, Zimmer has good defenses. And
Zimmer's
we
good.
see that with Minnesota.
Zimmer's
the
good.
offense may not always be there, but that defense in Minnesota is good.
And he's a
good defense.
He's a good man, a good leader.
Yeah,
Players respond.
that was a big mistake.
Can you imagine if we know how bad the Lions stink, right? I mean, the Lions always stink. Can you imagine how bad a Whisenhunt Lions combination would be? They might have had multiple 0-16 years.
Oh, he would have killed Matt Stafford. He would have killed Matt Stafford.
Yeah, he probably would
easily
have benched him so he could start like Rusty Smith or something.
Oh my goodness, that is incredible indeed. But I think Andre Wolford definitely. But I would probably say biggest bust of coaches, Ken Whisenhunt definitely. And I still remember, and I thought about this, and I'm pretty sure you thought the same thing. That game against Houston in Houston, I'm thinking he better not embarrass the Adams family in Houston. They're watching in the press box. This is their backyard. Mm-hmm. You got to do something right here. And we lost in that fashion and, had Patasi out there blocking J.J. Watt. I'm like, and the fact that he got fired 2 days later.
They had a different guy who it was Will Svitek. They got him
Svitek
like a week or two before. And they kept putting him one-on-one with JJ and not giving him help. And Rustin was like, "What are you doing?" I mean, this is Whisenhunt making Rustin look bad, and he's like, "What?" I mean, they're in the locker room after the game, and Svitek's at his locker crying. I mean, just bawling, because he's just completely embarrassed. But that's all on the head coach. That's all on the head coach. It's like
I agree.
About with Vic Beasley, you don't put people in position to do what they don't do well. All right, you put them in position to succeed, and that was a head coach who only had an ambition to do what he wanted to do. Whether the players could actually execute it or not really didn't matter.
I agree. And I mean, that was and we'll close off on this. That is a head coach trying to make the players fit him instead of him trying to fit what the players do best. And I will at least say this for Mike Mularkey. For one, I've given Mike Mularkey and Terry Robisky a lot of grief. I am not going to shy away from that. But one thing I will say about Mike Mularkey, he tried to put his guys in the best situations to succeed. He tried.
Went from 2 wins and 3 wins to back-to-back 9 seasons and a second-round playoff appearance. You know what that gets most coaches? An extension,
another job. Yep. And I mean, and I'll even go back and say with Mike Munchak. Mike Munchak, wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. Not like Whisenhunt horrible.
Munch had no chance with the ownership structure that was in front of him. I mean, he was in a bad spot. From his hiring, when they did it so late, he had no assistant coaches to choose from. And Munch is a good coach. He should be a head coach in this league. He really should. He had no chance. Mike Munchak's a good coach and could have been a good head coach in this league.
And that's why I would say that, because I think his first year we were just outside of the playoffs, like slithering outside of the playoffs.
Team.
Yeah, I agree. But last but not least, we're gonna go into a quick blue bombshell to end the show. And basically, we know that Father's Day has happened and everything, and I wanted to ask you, as far as what was just one of your best Father's Day memories with your family?
mean when I was a kid? Or now?
I'd say anytime. As a kid, as a dad yourself.
Yeah, I mean, my dad wasn't around much when I was a kid, so I don't have many of those memories there. But like every Father's Day now for me is special. Is special. I mean, I have one daughter. She's 7 years old. I was later in life having her. I was 41, 42 years old when she was born. So I didn't know that I was going to be a dad. So every Father's Day is special. And you know what the most special part of it is, Chris, is like this week. She would lock herself in her room, in her playroom, and I knew she was working on presents. I mean, because it's important to her. And she's drawing, and she's taping, and she's coloring, and she's gluing, and she really wants to get it right. And knowing how important it is to her, that's what makes it special to me. That there is someone in this world who I am that important to, is really special.
And you know what? I applaud fathers like yourself and all fathers around, especially, any fathers watching this show. Happy, I hope everybody had a great Father's Day and everything with that. Me personally, I am not a father yet.
Not that you know of.
Not that I know of. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping not. Because, that would be not good yet. But, I'm thankful that, at least I did help with my younger brother. I was 12 when my brother was born. So, basically, I told my mom, I said, when I was graduating from high school, he was like 5 for the turn 6 years old. I told my mom, I said, yep, you just got done with me. You got to start all over again.
Yeah.
But I, definitely was helping him with, definitely making sure he got to school and things like that. And that's some of the memories I have, is just trying to get him ready for school and myself too, and get out the door, get him to school, and then get myself to class on campus. Was definitely some funny things about that. And but yeah, being a father, I think, is a true blessing for any man to have a child just like, is yours, whether it's adopted or from natural. It's just the fact that you have a young person, a young mind that is looking to you, that looks up to you and may want to be like you and, do as good as you are. So to all the fathers out there, I applaud every last one of you, yourself included, Mr. Cory. And we're going to end the show on that. Mr. Cory, it has been an absolute honor and privilege. Just in case anybody's been living under a rock, how can they find you?
Watch News 2 at 6 and 10, pretty much Sunday through Thursday. Listen, we are very active on social media at News 2. For Facebook, especially, go to WKRN Cory Curtis. I post a lot there. And we have a daily sports talk show now that we started with COVID-19, really, called Sports Extra Daily, that starts every day at 5:30. So I encourage you to check that out. If you miss it live, it's not a big deal. It stays on my page in perpetuity. It's also available on WKRN.com. And on Twitter, I'm there at Cory Curtis, too, for all my snarkiness and more. And the other thing I try to do is I try to be social. If you write me, I will try to write you back almost
he does. And ladies and gentlemen, he does that. Anytime that I message him or anytime I ask him a question, or he always gives me a lot of knowledge. He gives me a lot of help with things that I'm trying to do as far as with Titans and Truth. I would tell this to anybody. Guys like yourself, guys like TD, y'all have been a big help and inspiration to me and helping me getting Titans and Truth to where it is and to even bigger heights. So I thank you. Everybody, y'all make sure y'all go on Facebook, especially if you're not in Nashville. Yes, 5:30 every day, WKRN News 2. Check out that Sports Daily Extra. Absolutely. Absolutely. But everybody, I'd like to thank y'all. Thank Mr. Cory for tuning in to Titans and Truth. I hope everybody has a very good rest of your week, and we will come back next week with round 2 high-low and some more Titans and Truth action. Everybody, tighten up.